Live from Lagos, Nigeria's commercial capital, this is Lunchtime Politics, where we unpack issues of national interest as well as get to bring you up to speed with some of the biggest stories happening here in Nigeria. Let's walk you through our radar this hour. Governor Fintiri pardons Sunday Jackson after more than a decade in prison after initially being sentenced to death. Plus, on the program, INEC asked the People's Democratic Party to resolve their internal issues before it can recognize any group or faction. Lunchtime Politics starts right now. Well, many thanks indeed for joining us here on the program. Wherever you're watching from around the world, we are live from our global headquarters here in Lagos, Nigeria. I am Kelly Egiga. And compliments of the season. Well, it's been an interesting 24 hours. First, the media charts by Governor Makinde of Oyo State, revealing indeed some interesting issues and perhaps that fractured relationship between himself and now the FCT minister. And then, of course, words of regret supporting President Bola Tinubu in the 2023 presidential elections. And then, of course, also declaring that he is also qualified to run for the office of Mr. President. So, interesting days ahead and time indeed. And incidentally, today is the Oyo State Governor's birthday. But let's walk you through some of our top stories this hour. We begin in Adamawa State, where the governor of that state, Ahmadu Fintiri, has granted pardon to Sunday Jackson, who was sentenced to death. Jackson, who is in Kuje Medium Security Custodial Center, has been pardoned alongside Joseph Eugene from the Medium Security Custodial Center, Yola, as well as Maxwell Ibrahim, serving at the Medium Security Custodial Center in Kaduna. The pardon is in commemoration of Christmas and New Year celebrations. Others we hear who had the remainder of their sentences remitted will include Joshua James Audu, Adamu Ibrahim, Muhammad Abubakar, Ibrahim Usman, and Saidu Abubakar, serving at the Medium Security Custodial Center, Numan, and Medium Security Custodial Center, Jada. The governor of Adamawa State, Mr. Fintiri, said the inmates had demonstrated significant improvement in their behavior and conduct over the years. Now, just barely 1 hour after that interesting media chats and engagements with the Oyo State governor, the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, revealed that it will neither recognize the Kabiru Turaki-led National Working Committee of the People's Democratic Party, nor that of the Abdurrahman Mohammed-led group, citing subsisting court judgment and unresolved legal processes. The electoral umpire disclosed this in a letter dated December 22, 2025, and signed by its secretary, Mrs. Rose Oriaran Anthony. The commission says it had received several requests from legal representatives of the two PDP groups, asking it to recognize and update on its website the list of national officers. However, after receiving the requests in the light of the extant laws and subsisting court judgments touching directly on the subject, INEC has now resolved not to recognize any of the leaderships until the pending court cases are resolved. All right, so let's get to that conversation now with the Oyo State governor, who disclosed yesterday, Mr. Makinde, taking a swipe at the Minister of the Federal Capital Territory, Mr. Wike, urging him to respect individual political choices ahead of the 2027 elections. He was speaking during a media interaction in Ibadan, the Oyo State capital. Governor Makinde made it clear that he would not be backing President Bola Tinubu in 2027, stressing that no one has the authority to impose political allegiance on others.
I was in a meeting with the president and Wike. And I'm saying this, in an open chat. The president's chief of staff was also in that meeting, and a few others. And Wike said to the president that, well, sir, I will hold PDP for you, against 2027. I was in shock. So we got up, we got to the veranda. I said, Wike, did we agree to this? I don't like talking about people, and I will not talk about people or talk about events. But I'll talk about the real issue. The real issue is that Wike would like to support the president for 2027. That's fine. It is within his right to do that. But also some of us that want to, ensure that democracy survives in Nigeria. We don't drift into a one-party state, and we want to ensure that PDP survives. It should also allow us to do our own thing. I told him from that day that I will never be a part of this. And that is why I will not be supporting the president for 2027. Wike can support him, he's within his right, but also it is within my own right to decide within the political space who I will support or what I will do in 2027. I can make mistakes. I'm human. I supported the current president, even though in another party at that time, because I thought, even though I never dealt directly with them, I thought we'll do what is right for the country, research the country, like I said, bring people from, all over that can help the country. But unfortunately, that is not what we're seeing. So I regret that action.
Oyo State Governor, Mr. Makinde, regretting there for supporting President Bola Tinubu in the presidential elections in 2023. Well, these two were friends talking about the Oyo State Governor, Makinde, and the FCT Minister. Remember the G5, remember how for many months that friendship was perhaps the talk of Nigeria. But now both men appear as strange birds fellow. And some had thought that, well, following this revelation by the Oyo State Governor, some had expected that the FCT Minister would have responded by now, but it's almost 24 hours after the FCT Minister seems to be quiet. We perhaps will anticipate that he will always get to respond to some of these revelations by Seyi Makinde. But let's get to talk security for a moment, because the governor of Adamawa State has only granted pardon to Sunday Jackson and others who was in prison or in the custodial center for about 10 years now. Let's get to discuss all of this and other security issues with a security analyst, Mr. Kingsley Uzoma, who joins us live now on the program. Mr. Uzoma, thank you indeed for agreeing to talk to us, and compliments of the season.
Oh, thank you. Compliment.
Yes. Well, I'm not sure what exactly your assessment is and how you've received this news of the release of Sunday Jackson alongside a list of others, a host of others who had released or granted pardon as a result of being in prison for quite some time now over issues. For Sunday Jackson, particularly of interest is the fact that he said the murder was committed as a result of self-defense. I wonder how you're receiving this story.
It is at the discretion and constitutional right of governors, commander-in-chief, and the Ministry of Justice, the Attorney General of the Federation, to grant such pardon or amnesty, so to speak. But again, it tells a lot about our justice systems, and it doesn't serve as a deterrent to the criminal underworld, because from the lens of criminal psychology, such action encourages criminals, knowing fully well that you can commit an act, and if you have your way from time to time, you might get some level of pardon or amnesty on the part of the government. And like I will always say, in this world, one can become famous either from the positive side of morals or from the negative side, okay? From the negative side is when you commit atrocity from kidnapping to high level of criminality, the person becomes famed as a notorious criminal, a notorious murderer, kidnapper, terrorist, and what have you. So from the lens of criminal psychology, certain individuals might choose to rise to fame from that lens, whereby those who align with the positive morals, you see them maybe doing exploits in the business world as entrepreneur, or those who seek a political career. But behind the scene, some of these criminal elements, call them bandits, terrorists, just like one man's terrorist is another man's freedom fighter. Within the level of politics, there are levels whereby such a pardon can determine some level of political ladder height for the governor or for whosoever choose to grant them such a pardon. For me, it's very regrettable that such a news or pardon, not to call it amnesty, was extended to him. It sends a very negative signal on the part of the criminal, on the part of the larger society. Then for the criminal world and for the immediate family, it calls for celebration. But again, custodial centers are there to rehab people, to correct them from their wrongdoing. So time will tell if he will be a better citizen, if he has learned his lessons, or while in custodial center, he was also running the underworld. Time will tell for us to factor that in.
Mr. Zuma, indeed, you have raised some very salient insights there. We'll unpack some more, but let's take a breather, because when we come back, we'll get to discuss Nigeria's volatile security situation, which has been characterized by a lot of happenings, especially in the northwest and northeast. We're back in just a moment. Everyone, please stay with us. Welcome back to the program. Everyone, Nigeria's security situation gets our attention this hour. That's because it's been characterized by escalating kidnappings and banditry in virtually every region of the country. We're talking to Kingsley Uzoma, a security analyst, who's been speaking and reacting to the release of Sunday Jackson, who has only just been granted pardon by the governor of Adamawa State, Amadu Fintri. Mr. Uzoma, so you have raised, indeed, I mean, your initial thoughts were really very interesting, but there are issues, and maybe I should even ask you a direct question to get your position. Indeed, this idea of a kinetic or non-kinetic approach, is it working?
Kinetics and non-kinetics approach has to do with two-edged swords. Okay, for me, professionally, it's only when the government wants to give some level of excuses that you need to adopt non-kinetics approach. Because in the real sense, when you adopt non-kinetics approach, is when you understand the modus operandi of the criminals or the bandits, and you know that yes, rehabilitation will make a change for a better society, and there is genuine intention, then non-kinetics approach becomes the way. Like, for instance, the non-kinetics approach played a pivotal role with the issues of Niger Delta militancy under late President Umaru Musa Yar'Adua. Okay, but the issues we're having in the North Central, North East, because yes, I visited just a few weeks ago, the events that unfolded, the things I uncovered, you will see that the motives behind and some political elements, including Sheikh Bunen, calling for the non-political, non-kinetic approach, means that it has a political undertone. Because the problem or the issue started, the history dates back to the amnesty granted to the Niger Delta militants. Yes, there was reason for the agitations and the what have you. So when that was extended, humongous money funds were mapped out from the Niger Delta Development Commission to the amnesty being extended to them. Certain elements in the North-West saw that, oh, these are now a conduit pipe to milk the nation of its resources. They were not happy on how funds are being allocated or mapped out from the National Treasury in that regard. So that was how the foundation for what now snowballed into high level of kidnapping, banditry in the Northwest originated. And today, some people think that calling for amnesty, non-kinetic approach will lead to reintegrating them back into the society. It has its own negative impact. Today, some of these persons, quote and unquote, repentant bandits and criminal elements, find their way into a security service in the name of recruitment. Okay, so now that there are nobody doing apt profiling of this individual, how do you resolve such a problem? The non-kinetics approach for bandits, criminal elements that have killed, kidnapped, even having social media accounts, and the Secret Service were unable to trace them, arrest them, or neutralize them, and the best some of their social media accounts has been blocked, or the service providers has been contacted to block their account. It doesn't really say well of our readiness as a nation to live up to the constitutional mandate of security of lives and property. When you, if you keep aligning more of 60 or 50% non-kinetics approach, in other way around, is encouraging criminality and maybe nourishing the ointment of insecurity, so to speak.
Mr. Zoma, I like the fact that you have mentioned the fact that these bandits boldly are on social media platforms. In fact, on TikTok, they boldly post on TikTok, and yet we are finding it so difficult to track them. But there are those who believe that it looks like these bandits are working for some people. It looks like they are only just being used. It looks like there's someone somewhere who these bandits gather these monies for. Because, I mean, when you look at the amount of monies that have been paid as ransom, it's in billions of dollars for 2025. So people question exactly if these monies are meant for these bandits, because they don't look like it. They don't look like the monies that they demand for. So who perhaps do you think is behind these people?
So that's why I said they have sponsors. They have those who wrote the script for them. And at every point in time, they know when to tell them, now the government going to come hard, withdraw. So that's why sometimes you see they seem to retreat or they soft pedal in their assault, because they have sponsors. Because the motive behind this ab initio is to shake the government. It can be extended, as was the case, to the Niger Delta militants, even when the scenarios that played are not the same. That is where they are getting it from. And that's why I will always say our level of politicking is very bad. It doesn't trigger development, okay? Because you mustn't force a problem, force certain elements to align with criminality in order for you to press out resources from government. Just recently, I did some level of observation and undercover in the same North-West. And you will be shocked to know that some of this money are repatriated, laundered back into this nation in the name of foreign direct investment. Some quote and unquote of things you see across there as foreign direct investment, the source of funds are questionable, whereby you see certain foreigners living in cities and maybe socializing in a way and manner that even the ordinary citizens are afraid to move around. So you begin to wonder, because some of in the illegal mining, harnessing of our precious minerals, for instance, we also see on TikTok some of these foreign individuals that even use under the protection of our security agencies. They are accelerating illegal mining, and nobody has brought any of them to book. And their cousins or friends or conduit spies are establishing malls and businesses without the government raising an eyebrow. We really need to step up in this regard come 2016. The government needs to come out clean. For he that comes to equity must come with a clean hand. If government is mandated and committed to uproot insecurity and give us a good level sense of security as it ought to be, then these areas need to be put into a good consideration.
I have to let you go now, but in 20 seconds or less, the festive season is here, and we know how peculiar it can be in terms of security. Any words of caution for Nigerians?
The words of caution is that Nigerians need to be alert. Your own safety and security first rest in your hands, and do not also lose hope in the security agencies. And the president has vowed to be more committed to issues of security. If you see anything goes wrong, if you observe any, do not hesitate to escalate it using the eyewitness platform of channels, for instance, and other social media. And gone are the days we should be quiet or not to raise issues for the government. Anywhere they seem to be doing, getting it right, we need to give them the kudos. But where they are failing, honestly, we need to escalate it to get the best. That's the reason we elected them. Thank you.
Well, it's a fine place to anchor our conversation with you this hour, and thanks indeed for those security tips there. Kingsley Uzoma is a security analyst. As always, thank you for your time on the program. Well, it's a fine place to anchor our conversation, everyone on the program. Thank you indeed for staying with us this program. On this side of things, I am Kelly Egiga, and you have just been served on Lunchtime Politics. As we leave now, we cross over live to Kano State for the maiden Kwankwasiya Scholars Annual Convention, which is holding at the Professor Hafizu Abubakar Auditorium, Northwest University in Kano City campus. So stay live with us here as we cross over to Kano State for that live broadcast on DSTV. That's the program, everyone. Compliments of the season.